Hi everybody, my name is Mike McCary and I work for Colonial Life. I'm going to be presenting to you today all of the options you have for supplemental benefits through Colonial Life. We're going to move kind of fast, so it might be good to don't take any naps. You might have a pencil and a piece of paper to write down a few things that you find of interest because we're going to move through a lot of information. This is intended to be high level, so we're not going to get into a ton of detail. I'm going to give you a little bit, but not much. The idea is that it's two-step, two phases. One, high-level interview overview. That's what we're doing today. Part two is you'll call the Benefits Enrollment Center for Colonial, and then you can get into detail, take all the time you want, ask questions, get pricing, etc. So what does that process tree look like for the next step? So if you have decided you want to get more information, you're going to take the flyer from your HR representative for Colonial Life, and you're going to call the Benefits Call Center, ask questions, learn more, enroll or waive, do what you want to do. Life is good. And you can make informed decisions. If you're not interested at all, fill out any forms for waivers that are necessary from your HR department, and then just continue with your orientation. We believe that benefits make people crazy. I work in benefits, and I am crazy, but anyway, it's another story. The whole idea here is that there's a lot of acronyms, and this is something that most employees only have to address once a year. So our job is to give you education so you can make a well-informed decision. And a well-informed decision is just as valuable when it's no as it is when it's yes, that you want to enroll or waive in something, whether that's medical, dental, vision, or whatever. So that's our job. Our job is to educate. Benefit counselors do not um, sell per se product. Our job is to help you understand what they do and don't do so you can make a decision about whether or not it's suitable for coverage that you might want to have for you, your family, or maybe just you by yourself. I put this slide up here because in years that follow, as you're an employee of CHC, you'll see that the name of the categories of benefits don't change much, but the content does. So if you come around to open enrollment and you looked at an accident and a cancer plan this year, don't just look away or take a nap or go outside and get a donut whenever they're talking about Colonial, because there's probably plan changes. You want to keep up with that. You don't want to miss something because you think you heard it all last year. Things change every year. You always want to make sure you stay up to date. So what are supplemental benefits anyway? When you enroll in a medical plan, your medical plan is like a box. It's welded shut on all sides. You can't change it. So if you had a husband or a wife, for that matter, that goes out on the weekends and rides motorcycles and motocross or does all kinds of stuff like that, or if you're very active, like I surf, I rock climb, I spend time in the Sierras every summer. I've done Whitney a couple of times. Pretty fun. Having an accident plan, for example, is a pretty smart thing to do because I can't change my medical plan. You can't change yours because you're more active or less active than somebody else. But you can use these little bolt-on supplemental plans to help add additional coverage. So why is it important? It's important because when you have an accident or an illness, it causes you to go to a physician or a doctor's office or an urgent care, etc., about 1/3 of the expenses are going to come out of your pocket. That's what all the studies say. And when they come out of your pocket, then you got to have the cash to pay for it or borrow money, etc. So that takes us to the point and the question of how do our plans work? And here's a nice little functional example. Let's create an employee named Johnny. Johnny has a motorcycle. He's got a major medical plan, as you can see here. And Johnny has an accident. So if he has an accident, he's going to have expenses out of his pocket. That'll be things like copays, deductibles, over-the-counter meds, non-medical expenses, lost wages, list goes on. So let's describe this accident. Let's say this accident was laid down his motorcycle, tore his leg up really bad, ambulance, emergency room, 2 night stay in the hospital, surgery to reset his leg, images, and follow-up visits. So there you go. He's going to have a pretty good chunk of money out of his pocket. So if this gentleman had an accident plan from Colonial, Colonial is going to go down through that list of things that happened to him, and they're going to evaluate because they just look at their policy because the policy spells out exactly how much he gets. And then they're going to send him a check. That money is his money to use to pay for the hospital bills, to put that money in savings, to spend it on a better motorcycle that has better brakes, whatever he wants to do. When he turns in his claim, he's going to get that money in 10 to 12 days, something like that, from the date he files his claim, as long as it's complete and the doctor is responsive and gets back, medical information, etc. By the way, a doctor can definitely cause delays. So whenever you turn in a claim, you definitely want to call your doctor and make sure they're responding and sending in the information. Because that's what we use to validate a claim. But that's how it works. Major medical plans pay doctor bills. Our plans, we pay a check always to the employee. It's their money. They can use it to pay the bills for their co-insurance and things like that. All of our plans pay in addition to other benefits you may have with other insurance companies. Benefits are paid directly to you unless you specify otherwise. So in this slide, I'm trying to show you that the benefits pay in addition to other benefits you have with other insurance companies. In other words, if your medical plan paid most of it, you get less from Colonial? No, it's a fixed amount that you get from Colonial. We're not affected by what other companies pay. Benefits are paid directly to you. You can tell us to pay somebody else, like your doctor or your hospital, but most employees, almost without exception, have us send the checks directly to them. You keep your coverage. Most of these plans are portable, so if you change jobs or retired, you can keep those plans in place. The plans are guaranteed renewable, which essentially says if you're paying your premiums, you're going to be enrolled and covered. You don't have to re-enroll every year. So here's the list of plans we're going to talk about. We're going to go through them fairly quickly. High level. Short-term disability does take longer than most of the plans because it's got a bunch of layers. Everything else goes pretty quickly. So short-term disability, here's what you have today in insurance coverage. You're in the state of California. It's a beautiful thing. State of California, if you're disabled, 7 days after your disability starts, you can receive 55% of your pay to something like $1,109 a week maximum. But 55% is the maximum, up to $1,109. That state disability benefit, by the way, this is an off-the-job example because 95% of disabilities nationally are off the job. It'll last for a year. And then if you're still disabled after a year, you'd have to file for federal Social Security disability benefits. Now, in addition to this, your employer, it's a pretty special thing, your employer provides you with a long-term disability policy. They pay for it. It starts 90 days after the event of the disability. It pays you 66 2/3%. Now that's not on top of the 55. That means they make sure you always receive 66 2/3. So when they kick in right here, if you're still disabled at day 90, your long-term disability benefit is going to add 11 2/3% on top of 55%, and you're going to be at your max of 66 2/3. Okay? Really important you understand that. You don't get 2/3 of your pay plus 55% from the state. This is like having an uncle that says, hey, I'm going to always make sure you have 2/3 of your pay. But if you get money from the state of California, I'm going to reduce how much I give you by the amount they give you, so you're always getting 2/3 of your pay. That's how it works. Now, on top of that, if you want to, you can have a Colonial Life disability policy, short-term disability policy for a 6-month benefit period, and you can select up to a maximum of 30%. So this is on top of the other amounts you would receive from the state and long-term disability. Or you could have a 12-month benefit period, in which case from the beginning to the end it's 25%. 6-month, it's all whole 6 months is 30%. So that also provides you with 7, 14, 30-day waiting period. So you can pick that. You can pick the waiting period that you want. The longer the waiting period, the less expensive the premium. And then when you talk with your benefit counselor, they can explain it. By the way, if you want less than 30%, you can have less than 30% of your pay. Pretty simple thing, very straightforward. Starting after July 1st of 2014, psychiatric and psychological conditions were also covered, so that was a good thing for me. I'm kidding. Just wanted you to know that if any of these things, are a part of your life, then the Colonial Life policy does cover disabilities that are, driven by these issues. Prior to 14, they were not. So in quick review, again, this policy has more layers to it than all of the other ones. So 6 or 12-month benefit period, a variety of waiting periods. You can go up to $7,500 a month maximum. The minimum is $400, 30% of your gross pay max. It's guaranteed issue to $4,000 a month. So that means no matter what happened to you during the 12 months prior to applying for the policy, you are guaranteed to receive $4,000 a month. But pre-existing conditions apply. What does that mean? It means that if you donated a kidney to your sister 4 months ago, that means you're hospitalized. Under normal conditions, you would not receive this policy. But because of the guaranteed issue clause that Colonial is providing, you would receive this policy, but nothing to do with the donation of the kidney or the surgery, hospitalization. That's nothing that's going to be covered for the first 12 months of your policy ownership. After 12 months, everything's covered. So in other words, after 12 months, it doesn't matter what you had before. Height, weight guidelines, medical, this, that, and the other, does not matter. You will receive disability benefits. There are no exclusions. You also have a first day hospital confinement rider that is a part of this policy, which means if you signed up for a 2-week waiting period, 14-14, if you were hospitalized because of an accident or a sickness and you were totally disabled, that means you don't have to wait 14 days to receive Colonial Life disability benefits. You get it starting the first day of hospital confinement. So that's a very cool thing. I'm very happy. That's brand new this year. All right, the next plan that we're going to talk about is the accident plan. We're going to start moving kind of quickly. Now, on this page, you see a listing of benefits that somebody would receive. I'm going to come back and talk about that. So you remember earlier when we had that pie chart up there, I talked about Johnny, wrecking his motorcycle, tearing his leg up, ambulance ride, blah, 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 and all that stuff. Well, I used this example. So if Johnny had the accident plan from Colonial, he broke his leg, he'd get $1,650. There's two numbers: compound fracture, or simple fracture. So this is a compound fracture, means it requires surgery to repair. So you get $1,650 here, $200 for the ambulance, $125 for the emergency room, $1,000 for the hospital admission, and $225 a day if he was in there a second day and third day. This goes for a year. That's another $225 a day for a year. If he was intensive care, we'd add another $450, but he didn't go to intensive care, and he had MRIs, $150. The check that Colonial writes to Johnny for his accident is $3,125. That's probably enough to cover his hospitalization, co-pays, and things like that, or loss of work, loss of income, etc. Notice that it has an accidental death and dismemberment feature, catastrophic accident, $25,000. That means if you loss of hearing, loss of eyesight, etc. This is a tiny little snapshot of all of the 2.5 pages in small type listings of every kind of thing that'll happen to you with an accident: cut, scrapes, burns, dismemberments, dislocations, hair loss from burns, eye injuries, teeth injuries, loss of teeth, dislocations. I mean, you name it, and to the right of every one is a value. If it happens, they total up that amount to, and they send that amount to you. This policy can be written for an employee only, a spouse only. So if a female had a husband who likes to ride motorcycles or go surfing like me on the weekends, You know, you could write it on your husband. You don't have to pay for you, just pay for who it's. What if you've got children that are in sports? You could get it on Johnny while he's playing lacrosse or football, or Susie while she's playing lacrosse. And after sports are over, cancel the policy. You know, but have it on them while they're playing those more more active and dangerous sports. 24/7 on and off the job coverage, 365 days a year coverage. So regardless of who owns the policy, that's how it's covered. It has a disability rider for a spouse, which means we can provide disability coverage for your spouse. It has a health screening rider, and then, like I said, pre-existing conditions are not covered for 12 months. Now let's take a look at the health screening benefit. The mammography, we'll pay that starting at age 35. We pay it one time. At age 40, we pay it once every 2 years, and at age 50, we pay it every year. There's also 22 other tests that you see on the page, and we'll add an additional $50 that we'll send you if you'll go get one of those tests. If you don't get your wellness test, it does not affect your premium cost. If you go get your wellness test, you're getting basically a $250 discount on your annual premium cost. So it comes close to paying for your accident plan premium. So take a look, make sure you stay healthy, get early diagnostic testing. The next plan is critical illness and cancer. Basically, the plan looks like this. If you own this policy and you had cancer, you had a heart attack, stroke, major organ failure, end-stage renal failure, paralysis, coma, blindness, or if you have a coronary artery bypass surgery, we'll give you 25% of the benefit because it's a preventative. And if you have skin cancer, it's 25%. So how does this work? Well, you can sign up for anywhere between $5,000 and $100,000, increments of $1,000. And if you have that event that we just talked about, we will pay you. If you had a heart attack, we'll pay you 100%. If you get diagnosed with internal cancer, we're going to pay you 100% of that amount. So if you signed up for $30,000 on your plan, you're going to get that check. Here's the deal, though. See here where it says subsequent diagnosis and health screening? Well, you could get a $30,000 check if that's how much you signed up for. If you signed up for 45, you'd receive 45,000 if you're diagnosed as having had a heart attack. And then let's say a year and a half later you have a end-stage renal failure. Okay, well, you're going to collect that same amount, full amount, a second time. And then let's say then a year after that you go into a coma, life got really bad. We're going to pay it a third time. Of course, it's going to go to your beneficiaries. But that's what it means. We'll pay it 3 times. So it's guaranteed issue to $20,000. That means no matter what you had, a heart attack a year ago, a heart attack 6 months ago, we will issue this policy, and because of the pre-existing conditions clause, we will not pay a benefit for one of those events during the first 12 months of your policy ownership, but after 12 months, everything is covered. Everything. So it also has a wellness benefit, works just like the accident plan, except that this one here pays $70 for going and getting a PAP test, and that's every year. Your next benefit is called hospital confinement. So it's very, very simple. Hospital confinement is a very expensive event to all employees. So this plan is specifically for hospital confinement. So in other words, it doesn't matter if it's for an accident or an illness. If you're confined to a hospital and you own this plan, you can receive $1,000, or you would receive $1,000 that you can use toward your out-of-pocket expenses. But again, you can use it for anything you want. It also has a rehabilitation unit benefit, pays $100 a day up to 15 days per confinement. It's a waiver of premium, and it also has wellness benefits we're going to get to in a slide or two. Now, if you are enrolled in a health savings account, you can only use Plan 1. But if you're not enrolled in a health savings account, you can use Plan 2, which is a little richer. Plan 2 is for people that are not enrolled in a health savings account. It has hospital confinement $1,000. It also has outpatient surgery, a maximum of $1,500 per year. So you can go tier one three times 500. You can go tier two 1,000, and if you go a second time, you'll get $500 for the second one because the maximum for the year is $1,500. It also has the rehabilitation unit, waiver of premium like the prior, and also wellness benefits. The wellness benefits, you're pretty good on this already, but here's how this one works. Pap smear, $70 a year annually. Mammography, again, starts at age 35, pays once. At 40, pays once every 2 years. And at age 50, it pays every year. And if you have any one of 15 other tests, you'll get an additional $50. So there's $270 right there, whereas the critical illness was $320. If you do the math, if you'll go get your wellness tests, you can come pretty doggone close to paying for your plan. So you have free coverage. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't go get their wellness tests, and they should. All right, the last couple of plans here, I built a cool little slide, and that's about life insurance. A lot of people don't like to talk about life insurance. It's this funny little thing where they kind of go, oh man, I don't know, that's like end of life. So if I was to talk to you today and give you a quote today, so here's our little happy smiley face, you know that time's going to pass. And there's a funny thing that happens with life insurance, the way it works, and that is as time passes, the cost per $1,000 of coverage increases. So if you were to ask me for a quote, and by the way, I forgot about this little face. And we know that at the end of the game, some earlier than others, some later than others, we're going to pass away. So if you ask me for a quote today, you know that we're going to be happy. You'd be great. That's, this little guy down here. But if you wait 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years and you ask me for a quote on the same amount of life insurance, you'd be like, what? Say what? Wait longer, it's going to be worse, and wait even after that longer, and you can't even afford it. So the smart thing to do is to, while you are younger, purchase an amount of life insurance that you can afford, so it keeps your parent, if you're young, it keeps, don't have any savings, it keeps your parents from having to borrow money or use their hard-earned savings to have a funeral for you. So I mean, really, for literally a couple of bucks a month, for younger people, you can have $25,000 worth of life insurance in term life insurance, and that's enough to, take care of final expenses and things like that. As you get older and you get married, well, the game starts to change a little bit. So anyway, life insurance. We have two options, whole life and term life. Let's cover term life first. Term life is available in 10, 20, and 30-year level premium payment periods. So if a 22-year-old said, I'm going to get $20,000 worth of life insurance, so if I get, killed, my parents don't have to spend any money. It might cost you a couple of bucks, two, maybe $3 a month. I don't think more than that. It'd be the same for the 10. If you bought a 20-year level term period, 20 years, it's the same. As you get older, you get to 25, maybe 28, you get married. You're going to start to have kids. You probably want to raise your life insurance amount, and then you just add that on top of what you've already got. Term life insurance does not build cash value. Whole life insurance does build cash value. It's called permanent life insurance. It has liberal underwriting guidelines, so we can cover a lot of tough medical conditions, and there is a guaranteed issue starting in May for up to $18 a week, $75,000. What does that mean? That means that whatever your age is, whatever the amount of premium you can purchase for $18 a week up to a maximum of $75,000, it's guaranteed issue. You do not have to take blood, urine, or EKG. It's a beautiful thing. Sorry for me being quippy, but it really is cool. Guaranteed issue anything is awesome. You can apply for higher amounts. Those higher amounts would be underwritten, which means they go through medical underwriting. You'll answer questions, and they want to see if they need to issue the amount over $75,000. Okay? So everybody's going to get an ace on that test. Why do you need it? I think we covered it. Funeral costs, outstanding bills. It helps people, like if the main breadwinner passes away, it helps the remaining family members to maintain their current lifestyle, make mortgage payments, provide for children's education, you know, keep car payments going, things like that. That's the reason for life insurance. Some of these plans can be paid for with pre-tax dollars. What does that mean? So in this example, if Johnny had $1,000 taxable gross income and he's in a 25% tax bracket, he's going to pay $250 in taxes, which means he's got $750 left. Out of that $750, he would pay his, let's say, a fictitious $100 in insurance premiums. That leaves him a $650 take-home pay. In a pre-tax world, same $1,000 taxable gross income, but you pay your pre-taxed premiums out of the gross. That means now you have $900 left. That is your lower taxable income in the 25% tax bracket. It's $225 in taxes instead of $250, and you have $675 as your take-home pay instead of $650. So in other words, pre-taxing saves you money. You don't pay state, local, or federal taxes in the compensation dollars you use to pay for the premiums. It's all governed by the IRS, and just like your medical, dental, and vision plans, you can only enroll in Colonial pre-taxed plans during open enrollment or if you have a qualifying event. What's a qualifying event? It's everything you see in red: marriage, divorce, birth or adoption, death of a spouse or child, or spouse changes employment. This is a good definition of pre-existing conditions. I'd like you to kind of read through this real quick. It's everything we talked about. It's in the presentation. If you need to, you can ask the HR department to pop that up there and you can read it. It's very simple. This is an enrollment screen. When you talk with your benefit counselor, they're going to be looking at a screen like this. If you're sitting with a benefit counselor face to face, you'd be looking at this screen. So essentially it's an enrollment screen that they use to give you the pricing and tell you exactly what things cost and who's covered, etc. So it's a very cool software. We like it an awful lot. There's two other things that I want you to know about. One is called the Coffee Knowledge of Financial Education and the WellCard Discount Card. So let me find that. So here's a coffee program flyer. Your benefit counselor will enroll you. They get your email from you, and then Coffee, KOFE, that's the folks. They will send you your membership to Knowledge of Financial Education. This is a service that Colonial Life pays for because you sat down and you learned more about supplemental benefits. It is Knowledge of Financial Education. It covers things like personal finance, budget, savings, debt management, payment options on things, credit card reports. These people don't sell anything. They are there simply as a financial coach. There is an 866 number that you'll call. You can use online tools. You can watch webinars. You can actually talk to somebody who's a trained credit counselor. It's really, really good stuff. Like it a lot. So the next thing that is free for you is called the Well Card, and it looks like this. The Well Card it looks like this. Your HR department will give you a Well Card. I think it's going to come from either HR or the benefit counselor, one way or the other. We will get this to you. You clip out this card and save it, and on the back of that it looks like this area down here. Basically, the Well Card will provide you with discounts for doctor's office visits, drugs, vision and hearing products, medical bill help. There is a 24/7 doctor consultation, not nurse, doctor consultations. It's a service you can sign up for if you want. Everything else, it's all about discounts. Now, is it important? Are there real savings involved in there? So let me share with you a document that I have. Where did it go? I'm sorry, folks. Here it is. I found it. You think I'd have this all put together. So here's a couple of examples. Using a Well Card, a nebulizer, wasn't covered by her insurance. It was going to cost $600. It ended up costing her $390 with her Well Card. Sales manager used the well card to get a rental car discount. He got it for 158 bucks through Avis. It was going to cost him 408 bucks. A controller at a law firm was going to get a prescription. He was going to pay 112, but he got it for $16.80. Trucking company manager was going to pay $450 for medication, but he paid $213 with the Wells card. And then somebody else was going to get some wisdom teeth removed, did not have dental insurance. It was going to cost them 1,198 bucks, but by the time they applied their Well card discounts, it was 520 bucks. So the Well card is a cool thing. We're a good company, fast claim service, wellness, etc. I hope you enjoy your relationship with Colonial Life and use your policies. Don't forget to take your wellness exams. I appreciate your time, and we're going to turn this back over to the HR department. So you have a great day.